Welcome to an audio version of an original article by Kathi Kresol, operator of Haunted Rockford Paranormal Events, Rockford, Illinois. This audio presentation is entitled Rambling Along the Mississippi, Dubuque, Iowa, and contains the 2017 story of the same name.
Traveling the back roads in any state is one of my favorite pastimes, and the last trip was no different. I had a long weekend, so my partner and I threw a couple of things in a bag and ran out the door. It's long been a dream of mine to travel the entire Mississippi River. Last fall, we ventured north through Wisconsin, so last month we decided to head south on the Iowa side of the river. We started the journey in Dubuque. We have been to Dubuque several times and visited many of the historic sites. It's a pretty city with a lot of interesting and haunted history. It's a very old town with its origins set in the 1690s when the French trader, Nicolas Perrot, started to trade with the Native Americans. Dubuque is named for Julien Dubuque, another French trader who was granted access to the lead mines by the Meskwaki Indians in the 1780s. Julien got along well with the Indians and eventually became a great friend of the chief for the Meskwakis tribe, Peyosta. A monument to both of these men sits on a cliff above the city. There are tales that Julien eventually married Peyosta's daughter, Potosa. Unfortunately, because of the time period, there is no real way to prove or disprove this claim. Many French traders took Native American women as wives, but they usually did not record their union in any way. I've visited many Native American sites all over the United States, and I am always struck by the strong feelings I get while there. In the places where they perform their ceremonies and any they use for burials, the land carries a certain presence. It is one of those things that I find hard to describe, but instantly know when I feel it. In the city of Dubuque itself, we visited a couple of historic, and yes, supposedly haunted places. The first was the Hotel Julien. This very recognizable building was built in 1843 by a wealthy businessman, Peter Wapples. Though the hotel website claims there has been some form of hotel on this same corner since 1839. Because of its height back in the day, this hotel was one of the first things business people saw as they entered the city. It's still very easy to spot because of its red Hotel Julien sign. The hotel was, and still is, known for its great food and luxurious atmosphere right from the start. It hosted many famous travelers in its long, rich history. Abraham Lincoln, Mark Twain, and Buffalo Bill Cody all are reported to have slept here. But there are just as many unsavory characters that have walked through the old doors of the hotel. Al Capone is rumored to have stayed here quite frequently during times when Chicago got a little too hot for his comfort. There were underground garages that made it easier to conceal his arrival and departures. Capone also liked the fact that he could see people coming over the bridge into the city from Illinois. He would eventually take over the entire 8th floor. At some point, Capone moved his headquarters into the Lexington Hotel down the street. The Lexington was rumored to have many more secret passageways and a vault that Capone used. The Lexington Hotel has now been demolished. Supposedly, Capone liked his visits here so much that he still makes his presence known from time to time. Staff and guests have reported seeing a man dressed in clothes from the 1920s and 30s walking through the halls on the upper floors. Their descriptions are very similar. They all saw a man dressed in a very nice suit and hat. When they pass him, they notice he has a prominent scar running down the side of his face. One man commented to his wife as they passed him that the man was really dedicated to looking like Al Capone. When she turned to catch a glimpse of the man, there was no one there. Other brushes with Al are a little creepier. One young lady that was staying in the hotel had just stepped from the shower. The bathroom was filled with steam, so she opened the door to let a little out. As she looked into the bedroom, she was frightened by the sight of a man in her room. Her scream must have frightened the spirit because he disappeared right in front of her. Whether or not Al Capone still walks the halls of the very luxurious Hotel Julien, it is definitely worth a visit if you ever get the chance. The Matthias Ham Historical Site is another place to visit, whether you are interested in history or hauntings. The property is amazing. There are other buildings on the property that have been relocated to this site. One of them is the oldest building in Iowa, a little log cabin. Matthias earned his money through lead mines during the early days of Dubuque's settling. Eventually, he would expand into lumber and shipping. He built what would become his home in 1856 and filled it with luxurious items from that time period. Matthias chose a hilltop to build his home. The first part he built was a smaller two-story house that barely fit his wife and their 5 children. In 1856, Matthias's wife died, and he enlarged their home into the beautiful building that is left today. Matthias built a cupola on top to highlight the breathtaking view of the Mississippi River. That view allowed Matthias to keep an eye on his shipping business. Matthias married again and had 2 more children with his second wife. During the late 1880s, the Mississippi River was a busy place. The port in Dubuque had a huge shipping business. Unfortunately, the city also had some problems with river pirates that would commandeer the ships and steal the cargo. One day, Matthias spotted something suspicious taking place on the river and was able to warn the authorities. The pirates were captured in a very public way, with the authorities making it known that Matthias was the hero of the hour. The pirates knew exactly who had turned them in, and they swore they would take their revenge. One of Matthias's daughters, Sarah, inherited the home after Matthias and his wife passed away. She had never married and lived in the huge house all alone. Sarah started to hear someone trying to get into her house late at night. This obviously frightened her, and she set up a signal with her neighbors. Sarah told them she would put a lantern in the window if she needed help. That was not the only precautions Sarah made. She armed herself as well. One night she heard someone moving around on the first floor of the home. Sarah placed her lamp in the window and held her weapon in her hands as she waited for help. She grew terrified when she heard heavy footsteps cross the hallway and begin to climb the stairs. The footsteps then came toward her bedroom, where Sarah waited, trembling behind the door. She fired twice through the heavy door, and the footsteps retreated. Sarah's neighbors came quickly to her aid. They were horrified to see a blood trail leading up the stairs. Frightened, they called Sarah's name and rushed up the stairs. After checking to see that she was all right, they followed the blood trail to the river, where they found the body of a man. This man was later identified as the same pirate captain that her father had locked up years ago. The captain had just been released from prison and had returned to the Ham House to follow through with his promise of revenge. The house was turned into a museum in 1964. Though I have researched this story, I have not found any articles about the pirate or a shooting, but the claims of the ghost continue. There have been balls of light seen going up and down the staircase. Once the police were called because someone saw a light going up and down the staircase. They thought someone had broken into the museum. The police phoned the head curator, who rushed over to the house. When the police entered, they found no one in the home. This has happened numerous times. Some people claim that it is the old pirate still clinging to his hatred of Matthias Ham and still bent on exacting his revenge. The third floor is especially uncomfortable for many. People have said that they feel as though someone is watching them while they are on that floor. As soon as they descend the stairs, the feeling fades. Electrical issues were a constant problem, and there were many nights when the staff would turn out the lights and leave the house. When they would glance back, all of the lights would be on. The staff grew so weary of the lights going back on, they began to unscrew some of the light bulbs. One night, an assistant curator was doing that job, and suddenly the pump organ in the parlor began to play. When she screwed the bulb back in, the organ stopped. The amazing thing about this claim is that the pump organ had been broken for years. People have also heard odd sounds, especially close to the staircase to the cupola. Many attribute these sounds to the story that a young man hung himself from those very stairs. Other claims include footsteps, shuffling noises, and a dragging sound in the hallway. The people who believe the shooting story state that it is the sounds of the mortally wounded pirate dragging himself through the house in his attempt to reach safety. Others claim that old Matthias himself is still there, watching over the house and the river that he loved.
This is the end of our audio article. We hope you enjoyed it. The article, Rambling Along the Mississippi, Dubuque, Iowa, was written by Kathi Kresol, copyright 2017. The article is also available in print on hauntedrockford.com. This audio presentation was produced by Thomas Saunders for Haunted Rockford, copyright 2024.